Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'd like to introduce you to two new plants that I've just started from seed. One is a bamboo plant and one is a rice plant. So they're both types of grasses. I've recently just germinated them. So the rice plant is probably about a month older than the bamboo plant, but they're both quite young. I think this one only germinated about two weeks ago. This one germinated probably about 6 weeks ago. So they're both quite young at the moment. Now I'll start with the rice plant. The rice plant, I actually got it from a bag of rice that I had in the house. I was making some rice one day and I noticed it was white rice, but one of the pieces of rice had a complete casing around it, so basically it still had the original coating. It had the entire seed, even though it had gone through the milling process. Every now and again, if you look at your rice, probably something like 1 in a million will get through without being fully processed. It's more common in brown rices because brown rice, it doesn't go through the second process where it strips the bran out of the rice grain, so it's more likely that a whole rice grain can get through. But with white rice it's less likely because that second process is less likely to get through the two processes. But this rice plant actually did come from a white grain rice. So this is an African grain of rice. I'll give you a close-up now of what it looks like. So this is the rice here. As I say, it's an African rice. This one in particular is from Malawi. Now I tried to find the exact species and variety of this, but there's very little online. All I know is it's from Kilimanjaro, the company that makes Kilimanjaro rice. It's from near the shores of Lake Malawi. It's an African species of rice, so the species name is Oryza glaberrima. I'll put the name up because it's quite hard to pronounce. Now this kind of rice is different to Asian rice. It's when it comes to growing it, it's actually easier for me to grow. It's more tolerant of flooding and it's more tolerant of drought. So that means I don't have to worry quite as much about watering. This will be easier to look after. When it comes to the eating characteristics of the rice, what you'll notice is a lot of these grains are broken. It's quite a fragile rice, so when they're milling it and processing it, a lot of the grains break. So you get a lot of shorter little half grains. But this is quite a nice rice. It's very versatile. It's aromatic rice as well. Maybe not quite as aromatic as basmati rice, but it still smells quite nice. It's not really a long grain or a short grain rice. You can see it's kind of in between, and it does have quite a bit of characteristics of both. So if you cook it in the right way, it can be nice and light and fluffy, a bit like a basmati rice, or you can also use it a bit like a risotto rice. It's a shorter grain, and if you cook it like that, it does get nice and gloopy and it absorbs all the flavour. And you can actually make rice pudding with it as well. It's quite a versatile rice. If you cook it long enough, it will get really sticky and stick together. So it's quite a nice rice. I've been eating it for a few years now. But this one, anyway, this is what it looks like, and I'll go back to the plant now. So as I say, being an African species of rice, it gives me the advantage that it'll be a little bit easier to grow than an Asian species of rice. This has been fairly fast growing so far. It's been in my conservatory where it gets up to 30 on a sunny day, down to about 18 during the night. But we're coming into winter now, the daylight's not going to be as good. I'll have to reduce the temperatures by in the conservatory just to save on the fuel costs. So this will probably go down to 10 degrees at night, maybe 20 in the day if it's sunny. But it's going to struggle to get above 20 come midwinter. So I don't know how this will do. I'm not sure if I'll get any actual rice grains off it. That depends as well if it's self-pollinating or not. I'm not sure if rice is self-pollinating. If it is self-pollinating, I might well get some rice grains, but I might have to put it under some grow lamps or into a slightly warmer area of the house, because rice is a tropical plant. It really needs quite high temperatures to grow, and it has a long growing season. It lasts about 6 months usually, so I wouldn't expect any harvest off this until probably early springtime. But I'm not really growing it for the harvest. I'm just kind of growing it for the curiosity factor. I've never grown rice before. I've never seen a grain of rice that looked like it could grow. So I just put it in this container. It's not ideal. As you can see, there's very little soil in here. I basically just had a bit of compost lying around, put the rice grain in there, and I thought, if it grows, it grows. And it has. So I was quite surprised. I didn't expect it to actually work. I wasn't sure if the grains would be sterilised, but they're obviously not sterilised by any kind of heating process or anything. So I'm quite happy with how healthy it is. It's growing really well. Now most people think of rice as growing in waterlogged conditions underwater, but rice doesn't actually particularly need to be under waterlogged conditions. The only reason that it's normally grown underwater, or at least partly submerged underwater, is because it cuts out all the weeds. So basically what they normally have is 10-20 centimeters of water above the soil, and then all the leaves are coming out the top, so the bottom half of the stem's covered. What that does is it kills off any weeds that might grow. Anything that isn't resistant to waterlogging dies off, and that means it's much easier to look after the rice plants. You don't have to worry about weeding and things like that. For me, I'm not going to have to worry about weeds, but I have been keeping this particularly on the wet side. Rice is a plant that likes it quite damp, so I've been keeping this quite wet, and there's no holes in the bottom of this, so waterlogging hasn't been a problem. I've just been letting this get waterlogged. What I might do though is I'm going to carefully pull this out, put some more soil underneath it and raise the soil level, because at the moment there's only about 1 or 2 centimeters of soil in here, and this is quite a fast, vigorous growing plant, so I'll need a bit more space for its roots. I'm not sure how big this will get. It should be able to grow to about 3 or 4 foot if it's like a normal rice plant. It might even get a bit more elongated if it doesn't get enough sunshine. But it'll be interesting to see how much this tillers as well. So with a lot of cereal plants and grass plants, they can do what they call tillering. So what that basically means is you get some other shoots coming up from near the base. So you have one main shoot, and then you can get lots of little side shoots coming off as well. When you grow cereals on a commercial basis, they normally rely on tillering to bulk up the spaces in between the plants, but the tillering is kind of reduced by how closely they grow the plants together. As this is going to be unrestricted, this might tiller quite a lot. I don't know, it just depends on the variety. It's not going to be restricted for space for tillering anyway, so I'm hoping this might have quite a few tillers and become quite a nice bushy plant, but we'll just have to see how that does. At the moment it's quite a young plant. I wouldn't expect tillering to come until a bit later on. So that's all for the rice plant. As I say, it's growing really well, nice and healthy. It does just look like a grass plant, a normal kind of, almost like a grass you'd see growing out in your garden. But it's looking really healthy at the moment, a nice light green colour, and I'm giving it a high nitrogen feed just to keep growing all that nice leafy material. So the second plant here I'd like to introduce you to is my Moso Bamboo plant. This one I've grown from seed, and bamboo is quite unusual. Normally what bamboo will do is it will grow for about 50 years, it will then flower, and after it's finished flowering and setting seed, the whole plant will die. So obtaining bamboo seed is quite difficult. Part of the reason that's difficult is because when bamboo normally flowers, every single plant around the whole world flowers within a 2 or 3 year period. All the plants around the whole world die and they just come back from the seeds. So if you want a particular bamboo from seed, chances are it hasn't flowered for like 20-30 years. There won't be any viable seeds around. You'll just have to get the plant from division. You won't be able to get viable seeds because the seeds only stay viable for 1 or 2 years. But Moso Bamboo is a little bit different. It flowers after about 50 years or so, but it doesn't do it globally around the world. What it does is there'll be individual plants flowering at one point anywhere in the world, so that means there's always some fresh seeds on sale for Moso Bamboo. So that's why I've been able to get this Moso Bamboo seeds. If you are buying bamboo seeds, unless it's Moso Bamboo, it's not probably going to be the actual seeds they're saying it is. There's a lot of people getting conned by people selling bamboo seeds, and it's not actually the seeds that they say it is, because as I say, it's very unlikely that there's going to be viable seeds for the particular species of bamboo you're looking for. But you can be lucky. If it just happens to be a year or two after the last flowering of that type of bamboo, you might be able to get the right kind. The main thing is to make sure you get your seeds from a very good seed supplier and not just some random seeds off eBay, unless they're a very good seed supplier on eBay, because the chances are they'll probably be giving you Moso Bamboo seeds, or they'll be giving you some old seeds from 10-20 years ago that have just lost their viability. So always try and go for the Moso Bamboo if you're going to go from seed, or check online. It's a reputable seed company. So Moso Bamboo is probably one of the tallest temperate bamboo species there is. It's quite hardy, can survive -10, -20. It will get a bit of damage on the leaves if it gets down -10, -20, but the roots will survive. So cold conditions wise, it will survive most winters here in Scotland. The only problem I have is Moso Bamboo is really a subtropical plant, almost temperate plant, so it can survive the hard frosts, but it likes a very hot summer. But I would like to give it a try here. As I say, it can go to 30 meters tall in its native environment, so it's one of the tallest bamboos, and it will get really thick stems, so the stems will probably grow about 15 centimeters wide, nice thick bamboo canes, but I'm not expecting to get anywhere that size here in Scotland. So this is one I say just germinated recently. I've got a few other ones that are in the pots. The germination rate of the seeds that I have got don't seem very good. It only seems to be about 10 or 20% germination rate. But I've had, as I say, there's a few more that are in pots that have just started to show roots. Hopefully they'll shoot up as well. This was the first one to germinate, and it's the only one that I've currently got above soil level. What I'll be doing with this is keeping it in the conservatory over winter. I might even put it under grow lamps. What I want to try and do is bulk it up, get it into as big a plant as possible, which means I need to give it loads of light, loads of fertilizer and high temperatures. Get it into a decent sized plant, and then hopefully it'll be big enough to survive the winters. If it's a young plant, it really won't survive the winters here. And also if it's a young plant, it might even not survive the summers, because our summers are quite cool. So I just really want to bulk the plant up, get it as big as possible. I haven't started feeding it yet, it's only a seedling, I don't want to damage it. But I'll be starting to feed it soon, and that will really help boost its growth, make it grow faster. As it's going into winter now, I'll probably have to put grow lamps on it to keep it growing. But my hope is if I can keep it through winter and get into a decent size, then come summer I can give it some really rapid growth and hopefully plant it early next summer. So with bamboo, the growth will be exponential. What tends to happen is the more leaves it has, the more stems, the bigger the next lot of leaves and stems will be. Bamboo grows in a little bit of a strange way. What it does is it will send up a shoot really fast. That shoot will sit there, collect loads of energy from the sun. It won't grow anymore. It will then put all its energy that it's collecting into its roots and into a shoot underground. Then when spring comes, or whenever the growing season comes, depending on the species, what it will do is it will then rapidly grow a new shoot. That new shoot will normally grow bigger than the original shoot, and it will grow up within a month or two, really fast, get to its full height in about a month or two. It will then put out branches, and then in one growing season it will get to its full size, and that individual shoot that came up will just sit there for about 3 or 4 years. It won't grow anymore, but it'll put all the energy back into the root system for the next shoot. So what tends to happen is every year you get taller and taller shoots and thicker stems until you get to the peak of the plant size. With this one will be about 30 meters, but in Scotland I would never expect that to happen. So I'm going to try growing this in my garden. If it does start doing really well and getting up to 10 meters tall, I'll keep it pruned because I don't want to get it too big, but 10 meters should be okay in my garden. As it's quite a slender plant, it just grows straight up. It doesn't really spread too much. This one can spread as a running species if you're not careful, if you're in a tropical place. It's probably not going to do it here in Scotland, but I'm still going to put in some bamboo liner because I don't want it to spread too much and cause a problem in the future. So I'm going to grow a couple of other bamboos, probably vivax and some Phyllostachys species as well. Ones that I know are definitely more robust than this in the Scottish environment. But I just wanted to give this a go. I've grown bamboo in the past from seed because we had a few hardy Scottish bamboo varieties go into mass blooming about 5 years ago. I'll maybe do an update on those plants soon. This one, as I say, is a giant timber bamboo. It should get really big. So I'll give you guys an update on these two plants probably in a couple of months' time. I'm hoping this one is going to grow exponentially. As I say, the more leaves it has, the faster it can grow. This one's still growing its original shoot, which will probably grow about 3 or 4 more leaves. It'll stop growing, and then I'll put out a new shoot, and that new shoot will grow much faster than this original one. That should be at least twice the size, probably 8-10 leaves, something like that. So that's all for this video, and I'll see you guys in a few weeks.